There was a war brewing in Australia, and once the dust settled, out from it came an engine with potential beyond its designers' and engineers' wildest dreams. It was a rivalry akin to Carroll Shelby versus Enzo Ferrari in the 60s. But 30 years later, it was Ford Australia versus Holden, two giants that produced homegrown super sedans fighting not only on the racetrack, but also at the sales counter. Holden had the Commodore, which introduced Australia to the venerable LS, GM's billion-dollar experiment to replace a small-block Chevy with something more modern, but still true to its pushrod roots. Ford Australia had a more clever and much cheaper idea: take the tried-and-true Ford Inline-6, give it a space-age makeover, and also give it a turbocharger to pressurize the intake charge. Well, the rest is literally history. It was codenamed the Barramundi. Yes, it's named after a fish. But with it, Ford Australia reeled in the hearts and minds of enthusiasts with a power plant that was easily tunable, produced unrelenting power, and was more reliable than the transmissions put behind them. In this episode of Explain, we get back to the roots of what made this channel popular. We break down what makes the Ford Inline-6 so good at one thing: making gobs of power effortlessly while destroying fuel and tires in the process. This is the story of when engineering, workmanship, and pride come together in a package that rivals even the best in Japan, Germany, and America. This is the Barra story. To become an Australian legend takes years of dedication and experience. In Australia, if you wanted to sell cars, you had to win on the racetrack. For 3 straight years, Holden dominated V8 supercar races. The age-old Ford Falcon versus Holden Commodore rivalry was in full swing, and Holden wasn't just winning at the track. They were building legendary models under the Holden Special Vehicles, or HSV moniker. HSV is to Holden what M is to BMW. One of these bombshells was the HSV GTS Series 2, featuring an imported power plant, the Corvette-based Gen 3 LS1, but reworked by legendary Corvette tuner Reeves Callaway. Its 6-bolt main bottom end wasn't touched, but a new camshaft, CNC-ported cylinder heads with titanium valve springs, and speed-density tuning came together in a 400-horsepower package. It was the king of the hill in Australia, and Ford and Tickford Vehicle Engineering, the equivalent to HSV and Holden, didn't really have an answer for it. The Falcon's ancient 4.0-liter inline-6 and Windsor 5.0-liter and 5.6-liter V8S were robust and reliable relics, but relics nonetheless. A new engine and a new Falcon would need to be designed to bridge the gap Holden began to create. Special Vehicle Operations Manager for Ford Australia, Gordon Barfield, introduced the idea of turbocharging the 4.0-liter inline-6, and it would become internally known as Project Geo because, in his words, they knew it would outperform everything. After a $500 million Australian dollar investment to redesign the Falcon and 24,000 hours of engine and durability testing, a new homegrown engine emerged, simply known as the Barra. It was the answer to the imported LS. The Barra's design had some advantages when compared to the ethereal Nissan RB and Toyota JZ inline-6 engines. Starting at the block, the Barra's iron block had extensive ribbing and reinforcement on the exterior, adding the rigidity needed for a long inline-6 engine that is susceptible to twisting and cracking under higher loads. The block was a closed-deck design like the JZ and RB to support the bores from deflection caused at higher cylinder pressures near top dead center. While the JZ and RB were cast with a harder gray iron in Japan, hardness is only one factor in block strength. With a bore and stroke of 92.26 mm by 99.31 mm, the Barra's piston speeds were limited at higher RPM. Therefore, 6,000 RPM was chosen as the red line. Like all inline-6s, they have perfect primary and secondary balance since the engine mirrors itself from front to back, counteracting forces caused by reciprocating internals. The gravity-cast aluminum alloy cylinder head was a new design and featured a BMW-inspired twin variable cam timing system with 60 degrees of seamless variation between advancing and retarding cam timing. This gave the Barra increased exhaust flow at lower RPM to spool the turbocharger and increased economy at lower engine loads and smooth idle operation. The engine was force-fed by a single oil and water-cooled Garrett GT 3540 ball-bearing turbocharger with a factory rating of 240 kilowatts, or 322 horsepower. The Barra 240T engine was stout for 2002, offering similar power to the LS1 and Commodore. It wasn't even the range-topping engine, but quickly, the Barra-powered XR6 turbo models breathed life back into the Falcon. The potential of the Barra would immediately be explored by its owners as the GT 3540 turbocharger was comically oversized and capable of 600 horsepower worth of airflow maxed out. The plentifulness and variety of the Barra made them excellent builder engines. For example, between the silver-top naturally aspirated engines, the red-top turbo engines, the black-top turbo territory engines, the green-top E-gas engines, and the blue-top FPV engines, they all had the same robust iron block and crankshaft that could withstand 4 digits of power. Where the differences lie is in the pistons and rods. The 1R rods, colloquially known as the spaghetti rods, could hold 400 kilowatts or 530 horsepower. These were found in the silver-top naturally aspirated engines, the pre-2006 red-top turbo engines, and a very short window of the green-top E-gas engines. The 3R rods, which are stronger but still not a replacement for aftermarket rods, were found in the post-June 2006 red tops, the blue-top FPV engines, the green-top E-gas engines, and the black-top territory engines. The stock block and crank have seen north of 2,000 horsepower. While the Barra-powered Falcons were impressive at dyno days and drag racing events, they also were a familiar sight to police agencies across Australia and New Zealand. The XR6 Turbo proved to be everything police agencies needed in a patrol car: quick, comfortable, and powerful enough to deter those attempting to evade. Unlike the peak of the Ram rating era in the 90s, where WRXs and Evos outpowered and outmaneuvered patrol cars, the XR6 Turbos were fast enough to keep would-be Ram raiders thinking twice about escaping into the night. It was such a great police vehicle that attempts to convert them to left-hand drive for the United States to replace the Ford Crown Victoria happened in 2005 and 2009, but Ford executives in Detroit blocked both proposals. Holden ended up seizing the opportunity by exporting the Caprice as the PPV, or police patrol vehicle, with a modest V6 option, or LS-based L77 6-liter V8. The inevitable fate of the Falcon was sealed in 2016 when Ford Australia retired the Falcon name after 56 years of production. The Barra proved that when Australian manufacturing, engineering, and design come together, it could be a force to be reckoned with. Similar to how the LS, the Coyote, and the Hemi are to Americans, the Barra is Australia's homegrown engine. While the LS, Coyote, and Hemi have seen Australian shores, the Barra remained exclusive to Australia and New Zealand, and who can blame them?